Right, so today I want to talk about the battery life with the 14 Pro Max and how it's been worse than I did expect. So before you see the screenshots, for context, I'm coming from a 13 Pro Max, and so while the SOT and the screenshots might be impressive to some of you guys, do remember I'm coming from the 13 Pro Max I had for a year, so of course that being the battery champ and this not matching that is quite disappointing. So the first few days were pretty atrocious because at 40% I was getting 4 hours of screen on time, which was not that great, especially when comparing it to the 13 Pro Max, where I got nearly 6 hours of usage with 47% left. So yeah, that was a huge downgrade and I was not happy with that. Then I thought maybe me restoring from iCloud backup was the issue, so of course I reset it, started fresh, and the battery life still was not great. Now at this point I thought maybe the always on display was the reason, so I turned that off, and yes, battery life was now slightly worse than what I would get with the 13 Pro Max, but definitely a lot better than my previous numbers. However, to get the battery life of the 13 Pro Max by turning off the main features not that great, and to be honest, I think Apple should have given us a bigger battery inside the 14 Pro Max. Like, surely they knew the always on display was going to be using up more battery life, and so to counteract that with a bigger battery inside would have been nice. And the funny thing is, even when I turned the always on display off, it's actually not very consistent. Today, for example, has actually not been that great, but maybe tomorrow is going to be great again, and this is what's really annoying about my experience with this phone, because the 13 Pro Max was consistent, it was constantly delivering with the battery life, and that was easily my favourite feature about that device. And so the 14 Pro Max being so rocky is not great, though maybe iOS 16's to fault. I have heard older iPhone users complain about the battery life, and I actually did not update my 13 Pro Max to iOS 16, so maybe I need to wait for more updates for Apple to improve the battery life. But then again, it's not great that we have to wait for updates to see battery life get better, because with the 13 Pro Max, from the second day onwards, that phone delivered. And actually, surprisingly, the regular 14 I had for a bit was more reliable with battery life, and it kinda makes me conflicted because while I do like the Pro Max for the cameras and dynamic island, I do also value battery life, and so maybe I should get the 14 Plus instead. I'm not too sure myself, but fingers crossed Apple does improve the battery life. I guess I shouldn't be surprised that Apple did give us worse battery life, because for the last few years, they've been on a TikTok cycle of sorts with the battery upgrades. For example, the 11 Pro was an upgrade, the 12 Pro that follows suit was a downgrade, then we saw the 13 Pros get better, but of course, now with the 14 Pro it got worse. But guys, tell me in the comments below, have you been having battery issues with the 14 Pro series? Anyways, thank you for watching guys, and make sure to like and subscribe for the latest Apple news and rumours. Check out the video above on details regarding the iPad 10, and on that note, see ya peeps.